Runemasters is a cooperative and solo-friendly game of tower defense, or I should say temple defense. Up to 4 fantasy heroes that you see on the cover will try to defend a temple from a horde of monsters that will be coming and coming and coming. And that's it. If you survive for long enough, you win the game. If not, I guess you guessed it, you lost the game. So you're gonna have a deck of monster cards that will populate the 4 tracks that you see there on the board, and they will move toward the center. They will attack you if you are adjacent, if they're adjacent to you. They attack you if they're adjacent to you, reducing life. They will attack the temple. If they're adjacent to the temple, there is no one there to take a hit. And you have a tracker to keep track of how many life points the temple has. If everybody's dead or if the temple is down, you lose the game. You will shuffle a Dawn card toward the bottom of the deck. And if you ever reveal it, then light floods the temple. And all the monsters are away. And that's how that works. So you set up the game by shuffling the cards, removing some cards depending on the number of players, and then you will draw 3 cards. As you can see, each track has 5 numbered slots. Maybe I can show you these 2 for no reason. That's why not the other ones? Because I'm showing you these. So you reveal 3 cards, and the first one that you reveal, you place it on number 1 of its track, the second one on number 2 of its track, and the third one on number 3 of its track. You place the 4 heroes in their starting positions, and you're ready to go. Now, you may notice that the number 3 on the board is represented by the sort of like whirlpool, something, a little tornado thing. So, at the beginning of a turn, you will draw a card and you will place the monster in the 3 space of its track. If that space is full, then you place it behind, and if you would need to place somebody in the 5th position and you can't, it gives damage to the temple or the character who is there instead. Then you take your turn, and now each player, or say each character, is represented by a board such as this one. And if you play with 4 players, each player will have a character. If you play with fewer, then you split them differently. For example, I played solo, so I control all 4 characters, and it didn't feel confusing or overwhelming at all. When it is your turn to activate your character, one of your characters, you roll these dice, although you start with 4. You roll these dice, and then you use the icons to perform actions. There are also some actions indicated on your board that do not require dice. For example, you have a currency here, which is mana, and you can spend mana to 1 point of mana to reroll 1 die. It usually is a bad idea, I found, or at least that's my understanding. Or you can spend all of your mana, just drop it to destroy a monster in front of you. Just enormous burst of mana. You destroy any monster that is in front of you, unless it says cannot be destroyed by mana. Different monsters will have different rules like that, and that's it. They work in slightly different ways. So one way is, so you can spend mana for those actions, but again, many actions will be fueled by dice. Each character has a unique action fueled by this one, so this symbol means different things for different characters. Ismoros places a shield marker on a guardian. Other players, Kulak. Kulak will heal. She's here, trust me, she's right there. Kulak will heal characters, things like that. Then, for the symbols themselves, you can use them. You can use a symbol to wound the corresponding symbol on the monster card on the track in front of you. It sounds really complicated when I say it like that, but that simply means that to wound this monster, that was weird. To win this monster and try even to kill this monster, I need that symbol there. Booyah. And to wound this monster, I need either of these, and to kill it, I need both. Suppose that the monster is there. Yeah, their effects, they may move monsters. Green monster may be on the blue track. So I'm looking at my symbols here, and I can use this symbol here to place a wound token on that symbol there. If I'm able to fulfill the whole thing, then the monster is removed. I gain an advantage, I gain a reward. For example, I gain a mana, as indicated there. And again, if there is a monster in front of me, I need to take care of that one before I can start placing wounds and using dice for the other ones. I can also use a die to move to the corresponding track, so I could spend this die here to go there. And then let's see what else I have. That doesn't do anything there. And so that's the general idea. The main uses of the dice are to move to the corresponding track or to place ones there on the corresponding symbols. Again, unique effects plus mana effects. And this is pretty much the general idea. You also have event cards. You will form a deck of event cards at the beginning of the game. Some are good, some are bad. The composition of how many use of each kind indicates how tough the game is. After you're done taking your actions, or you can also choose to save. Instead of spending a die, you can choose to discard it to power up your main ability here. Each character has a different one, and so for example, I discard a die, and I discard a die, and I discard a die. So once that is completely filled up, I can use the corresponding action, trample for pancreas. I know, I called him pancreas, or petrification for Ismoros, resurrecting people for Kulak, things like that. So if it's charged up, you can use it. You move that token to 0, and also you flip it from the one side that it starts showing to the two sides, indicating that you can do it again. If you charge it again and use your special ability a second time, this time that token is removed. So again, another thing that you can do by discarding your cards, your dice, is to charge up your ability that can be used up to twice per game. There is technically player elimination, because if your character goes down to 0, the character is eliminated and killed. With Kulak Resurrection's ability, that's not too much of a problem. I still haven't had a game in which a character was kicked out for any significant amount of time. So if I play multiplayer, there would not have been a time where when a player would have been forced to skip turns, maybe one, and so that's not a huge of a deal. This is the general idea. When it's your turn, roll your dice, use dice and abilities and mana to move around, attack the monsters, a couple of other actions. You can fortify a position, things like that. And try to kill the monsters and keep them away from the temple. Try to keep the temple alive. Don't get the market to go down to 0. If you're able to survive for long enough, you win the game. Otherwise, if they kill everybody or if they destroy the temple, you lose the game. I played the game only as a solitaire game, controlling all 4 characters, and I think that mechanically there is no problem doing it that way. It didn't feel overwhelming because each character has their own contained set of things that they can do, and so now I'm doing this character, now I'm doing that character, and so on and so forth. I don't know that I would want to play multiplayer, because I feel that the danger of quarterbacking is going to be quite significant here. That the players are just going to debate all the time, you should do this, you should do that, and players who don't feel super comfortable, or players maybe just go along with the quarterback's plan, people who believe they're better at the game, maybe they even are, they may just steal the fun and engagement for other players. So but if you're considering just for solo, there is mechanically no problem. However, I didn't find gameplay so engaging, and that's a big problem. It reminded me a lot of Ghost Stories, which of course was one of the best games when it came out in 2008. That was early in the game when Pandemic, while not being the first cooperative game, had made cooperative gaming so much more accessible and visible. I seem to remember being still like, whoa, there's another one kind of like it. We had Arkham Horror, Pandemic, and Ghost Stories. But of all of those, Ghost Stories was already the one that was a little more repetitive in terms of gameplay, although you could collect different bonuses and trigger different combos. But again, by 2008, it was perfectly fine. By 2019, when the re-implementation of Last Bastion came out, that was still enjoyable. For some reason, I guess, to me, doing tower defense now felt a lot more repetitive and a lot less engaging than it used to be. Again, maybe it's not tower defense, it's me at this point, maybe the pandemic. I know it changed certain ways in which I relate with games. I'm a lot less patient now than I used to be. And maybe that's it's me, not the design, but it's tower defense with a fairly repetitive mechanism, with a very repetitive mechanism. The idea, of course, is to counteract it with mounting dread, with these monsters that keep coming, etc., 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 and that might even work, but it wasn't my experience here. I played 5 games, I lost all of them, and I don't mind a game that is tough and I lose for 5 or more times than that. I think Forbidden Sky, I think I lost like 12, 15 games before I could barely win one. And I kept playing because I was excited and engaged. Here, by the third, I was skeptical and I played it 2 more times, and now I'm like, nah, I don't think this game is for me. Because it's not that I lost, but how I lost. The game felt very easy early on in most games. Very easy, I could keep them at bay, and then 2 dragons will come out, or 2 other giant monsters will come out, and I wouldn't get the right dice to go and address them. And I think of all 5 games, I lost them all for this simple reason. Even if there's a real important location and I need to go there, I spend all of the characters' mana on this one thing, and I don't get it. I don't get the rolls. So there's still an element of luck, which is quite remarkable. I did not expect it. I expected to be the element of, the curve. You roll dice so many times that there are going to be good things, bad things going on. Typical results are going to be more common. And yet every time, it just so happened that my characters were in the wrong locations and they were looking and were just staring at a monster destroying the temple. And that was that. And so that felt extremely frustrating. Again, in some games it went from very easy to impossible, but not because the complexity had increased, because I didn't get the die rolls to go where I wanted to go. And you think, well, but you use that mana. You also need the mana for something else. And there are times that I just use all of the mana to get a certain die roll, and I didn't get it. And that's it. So that was extremely anticlimactic, and I felt, what is the point of trying to create some nice, interesting strategies and synergies, which is possible, if then I'm left with a couple of unlucky die rolls deciding the whole thing. So maybe as a light, almost like party game, you chat, you laugh, you don't worry too much, you roll a couple of dice and you do some friendly banter and you brag about slaying the dragon, which is a particularly tough enemy to destroy. But from the point of your strategy, my experience 5 out of 5 is that I didn't feel that, if I do things differently, I could achieve success. If I was more lucky, I could achieve success. That's the experience, that's the feeling that I got. And of course, that made playing the game less exciting. Too bad, because the production, the characters, the art is very nice. A simple, quick, light co-op game that I could play solo. I wouldn't mind adding it to my collection, but I just didn't find it engaging between the luck swings and between the repetitive gameplay. It wasn't as excited as I hoped it would be. And this is my assessment for Runemasters.